Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the 7th round of the Marshall Chess Club Labor Day Invitational. Now, the famous YouTuber and aspiring Grandmaster Levy Rozman is competing in this event. Thus far, it's been a very brutal event. He's lost 5 games and he's only had 1 draw, but nonetheless, every game presents a new opportunity and a chance to try and play well and get his first victory of the event. So let's jump right into the action. Now, the game that Levy is playing here in the 7th round, he has the white pieces against Liam Putnam, who is a talented junior from New York, currently a FIDE master, but he does have a very impressive FIDE rating of 2420. All right, so Levy with the white pieces, and the game starts out with the move c4, and now we get the move e6, g3, and now we have the move d5, and Levy plays the move bishop g2. Now Levy decides to mix it up a little bit here. He decides to play what we would call the classic Catalan system. White could play knight f3. White also can delay it, but generally when you play c4 along with g3 and bishop g2, you're going for the classic fianchettos. So here we get knight to f6. Levy plays knight f3, and now Liam Putnam decides to take the pawn on a4. Now black has a couple of options here. You can play c5, you can take on c4, you can go bishop e7, or you can play this move d4. Those are generally the most typical options. Now Liam Putnam decides to take the pawn on c4. Levy goes queen to a4, checking the king, and now we get the move knight bd7. After queen takes c4, we get the move a6 here, and now the plans are pretty straightforward and well defined for both players. Now for Liam Putnam, what he would really like to do is he'd like to go b5 and play bishop b7 to counterbalance this bishop on g2 on the long diagonal. For Levy, meanwhile, he plays the move here, which is queen to c2, trying to stop black from getting b5 and bishop b7. Basically, if black can ever go b6 or b5 and get bishop b7 in here before white can create threats on the diagonal, black should always be okay. Now if black were to play b5 here, it would be a serious inaccuracy, because after knight to d4, you open up the scope. If you move the rook to either a7 or b8, there's knight c6, forking the queen and the rook, but most importantly, the queen is actually trapped here and white will win the game. So Liam Putnam goes bishop d6 first. We get castles, and now Levy plays move b3, trying to go for the classic double fianchetto here with the bishops on the 2 diagonals. Here Liam Putnam plays move c5, and now Levy goes bishop b2. Now it's hard to explain why this position is so good for Levy, but it's a very open position in general, where white, by good, by the way, I don't mean from the general evaluation standpoint, but more from the piece play. It's a very open position here. There's a half open c file. He's got the diagonals. White can play for d4, e4, and it's not a situation where there's going to be a lot of maneuvering. White has very concrete plans here, and if black is not able to get this bishop on this long diagonal, which is very difficult to do already, black will be in serious trouble. So Liam Putnam plays move queen e7, and this is simply a bad move here. Now I'm not going to fault Liam Putnam for missing this idea with rook b8 and b5 right away, but queen e7 is simply a waste of time here. Black desperately needs to move this rook and play b6. Now if you were to move the knight, there are no threats on the diagonal, which is why I like rook b8 in the first place, and if black can get bishop b7 here, black will be completely fine. So Liam Putnam plays queen e7 instead, and now Levy goes d4, and already here Levy has achieved everything he could ask for, because it's a very easy position to play here for white. Now what do I mean by an easy position? What I mean by that is white has very easy play. Both these diagonals are open. White really only has to figure out where to develop this knight, whether he goes to c3, a3, or d2. So Liam Putnam plays the move rook b8, and now Levy goes for this move e4. Now e4 maybe is not the best move, but I feel like because Levy has not played well in this tournament, this is a move that I really like, because it forces the issue immediately, where black has to respond accurately or he will end up in trouble immediately. So Liam Putnam trades the pawns on d4. We get knight takes d4, and now we have this move rook to d8 being played here. Now this move is simply not a very good move here. What Liam Putnam should have played was this move g6. It might look a little bit awkward on first glance, but the idea here is that if white plays knight d2, you can now go e5, and there's no knight f5 jump, as the pawn will capture the horse. And after white goes back to f3, now you can play the move b5, and suddenly the knight cannot jump to c4, and black will get bishop b7 followed by rook to c8 here, and black should definitely not be worse. If anything, I want to say black might even be better here, because now you'll notice that this diagonal, the bishop spies the pawn, and this light square b on g2 is simply clogged. You have a pawn and a knight that are both in the way. Liam Putnam, however, plays the move rook to d8. This is a move that I'm not a fan of. When I look at this opening and considering the fact that I've played Liam Putnam quite a bit in online blitz, it seems to me that he's simply playing scared here. He's playing very timid. He's trying to not make a critical decision, and he's trying to wait for Levy to force the issue. Now, Levy obviously is half a point out of 6, so it's kind of understandable. On the other hand, because the position is so open, you have to react and play very, very accurately. You cannot sit back and wait to get run over. So Levy goes knight d2 here, trying to play for knight c4, and now Liam Putnam plays the move knight f8. Now this is another move that is extremely passive and not in the spirit of the position. Now knight to e5 is the best move, mind you. It's not the most obvious move because you're running into an f4 idea here to hit the knight. But after bishop to c5, if white takes knight, you can sack the rook with rook takes knight. And after king h1 and knight g4, let's say bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, rook c1, for example. After bishop d7, white is up a rook for a bishop, but you will lose his pawn on e5, and the knight is jumping to e3 and f2, and black has a lot of compensation for the sacrificed rook. But instead, Liam Putnam goes knight to f8, and now Levy plays this move knight f3. Another move that I'm a big fan of. Levy's moving relatively quickly here. He's playing for simple ideas like pushing this pawn to e5. And now if black were to play e5 himself, you get this knight c4 jump, and suddenly the pawn on e5 and the bishop on d6 are very weak. And after, let's just say knight g6, takes, rook d1, queen e7, trade the towers, take the pawn on e5. White has the two B's here and an extra pawn in the center of the board, and white will win this very convincingly. So Liam Putnam decides to play the move bishop c5 here, and now Levy goes for this slightly awkward looking move bishop e5. Now in this position, the computer is screaming for white to play the move e5, and the reason is that even though you close the diagonal, you create a jumbo square for your horse on e4 here, and after black say moves the bishop to a7, you can put this knight on d6 here. You can maybe even go h4 h5. White has a great position here with the knights in the center of the board, the pawns pushing on the king side, and it's just a very difficult position to play for black. Instead, Levy goes bishop e5, and the reason I say this move is a little bit awkward is because after rook to a8 is played, now the bishop is kind of in the way. You'd love to push the pawn forward, but the bishop is preventing it, and the bishop isn't actually doing a whole lot on this diagonal at the moment. So Levy goes rook c1, and now we get the move b6, and here he plays the move knight c4, and now Liam Putnam plays this move bishop b7 very quickly. Now this move is a big mistake here from Liam Putnam. What he needed to play was this move a5, stopping white from pushing the pawn to b4, and you still have time to develop this bishop to b7 or a6. However, it's very clear to me when I look at these moves, even without having watched the game live, or really closely, I should say, that Liam Putnam here, I want to say he has a bit of stage fright here, or he's simply wildly underestimating how good Levy is as a chess player because of the result that Levy has. Because in this position, you simply don't have time to play a move like bishop b7, because Levy correctly plays this move b4, attacking the bishop on c5, and after takes a knight b6, suddenly black is in a lot of trouble here. Now Levy's bishop to e5 move has been completely justified because you cannot move the rook to either b8 where it would be captured, or to c8 where it would be captured by the horse. Additionally, if black were to play this move bishop takes e4, you think, well, you attack the queen, white can't take the rook. But if you take this pawn, now white can play the in-between move, bishop capturing the horse on f6, attacking the queen on e7. If you take, I take the bishop, I have an extra horse on the board, and with an extra horse I will win. And if you were to go queen b7, which is the one other option, white can simply play the move queen to b2, attacking the bishop while attacking the rook, and after takes on f6, you can take on a8 here. I guess let's just say rook takes a8 and rook c4, and white will win this game here. White has a rook for a bishop, and black's position is in tatters. So after knight takes b6 here, Liam Putnam plays this move rook a7 literally in 5 seconds, and this move is probably the move after which black is under severe pressure. Computer still says after this in-between move bishop a3, attacking the rook on c1, if white takes and black takes and white takes and black takes, white is still better here after a move like queen to b1, attacking the bishop while keeping this bishop takes knight move in play, and rook c7 as well. But would this have occurred in the game? It's anybody's guess, and I actually think that if this had happened, bishop a3 had been found by Liam, I don't think Levy would have ended up in great shape the way he did in the game. So After knight takes b6, Liam plays the move rook a7, which is a logical human move, trying to dodge everything. And now Levy correctly finds the move queen b3 after about a 9-minute think. Now, one of the great things in this game, which I've harped on a lot in my previous recaps, is that most of these games that Levy has played, he's had difficult moves. He's had to come up with a plan and find the moves. In this game, it's quite the opposite, where Liam Putnam is a bad rook, his bishops aren't great, and for Levy, he has a lot of good options here. You can play queen b3. Actually, not good options. I should say he has very few good options, and as such, with so few good moves or limited possibilities that make sense here, it's not difficult for Levy to find this move queen b3, which is a winning move, shockingly enough, according to the computer. Now, the reason that I say that is because white doesn't really have many other options. If you look at this position, the big issue is the pawn on e4 is hanging here, but what can you really do to guard the pawn? If you move the knight to d4 to try and guard the pawn, now black can play the move knight to g6 or knight to g4 as well, and suddenly there's a lot of pressure in the middle of the board, and so you're never going to go knight d4. So if you're not going to go knight d4, what else can you play? And for me, the only moves that I can think of besides queen b3 are maybe queen to a4 and possibly bishop to d4 or bishop to c7. But after bishop c7, it's not difficult to spot that black can sack the rook by taking the pawn. White takes, black takes, and suddenly you have no squares available on c6, c7, or c5 to guard this horse. And because you have no squares to guard the horse, if you lose the horse, you will lose the game. So Levy finds queen b3 here, a very, very good move. White now threatens to play rook c7, creating the kebab on the 7th. Additionally, there are threats with bishop takes f6 as well, and here black is in serious trouble. So Liam plays the move bishop c5. Levy goes knight to a4, the best move in the position, attacking the bishop, and now we get knight takes pawn. Now, one thing that I really like about Levy's play, including not just limited to his time usage, is that he's playing very freely here. He's not spending all the time in the world trying to find the best move. He's trusting his instinct in this game, and even though he's sacking a pawn, he believes that in this position here, where we reach this position where white is down a pawn, due to black's terribly placed rooks here, the knight on f8 being passive, the knight on c5, he's trusting that he will have counterplay. Now, Liam plays this move f6, and this is a very important moment in the game. Now, if black has 50 minutes on the clock here, I think Liam Putnam can maybe find the right move here, but he's unable to with such limited time. Now, the move that the computer, actually, I should give a little bit of a refresher here, is that you're going to see after f6 and bishop f4, there's a line that makes a lot of sense. But here, what Liam should have probably spent time on was this line knight d3, bishop c7. You attack the rook on d8, you attack the rook on a7, and black has this wild resource, rook d7. White takes, black takes, white takes, and you think, wait, white has two bishops. White's up a bishop, black has one knight, game over. But black has this amazing resource, queen to a3, hitting the rook and the bishop at the same time. And after queen e3, rook d3, queen e1, rook f3, and bishop a5, white is actually winning here because you can go bishop to b4 combined with rook c8 to win the horse. But would this have happened? Anybody's guess. Instead, Liam plays move f6 here, and Levy now goes bishop f4. And at this point, as you'll be able to tell from the eval bar, Levy has one move, or not Levy, sorry, Liam Putnam has one move and only one move to be okay. And the only move to be okay here is to play knight d3, because after bishop to c7, we end up in the same line, but now you'll notice there's one critical difference, which is that this pawn is now on f6. So when black was queen a3, queen e3, rook d3, queen e1 takes, and bishop to a5, black can very calmly ignore everything with queen takes a2, because after rook to c8, there's now the move king to f7, dodging the pin on the back rank here, and now suddenly black has survived and probably isn't even worse. But Liam Putnam here, a great blitz player rated 3046, is unable to find knight d3. He ends up playing this move knight to a4 after a 7-minute think, and this is very shocking because this is a guy who online very, very strong tactically, finds a lot of these resources, but here he simply misses it completely, and instead he goes knight to a4. Now, another thing I would note about this as well is it's very clear to me that Levy's playing very much on his instincts, and his opponent is very, very timid. His opponent is not trusting himself whatsoever. We've seen it in many instances of this game already. This knight f8 idea instead of knight e5, not playing a5 here, very, very timid, and he now plays knight a4. And honestly, thinking about this as just a human, with disregard the eval bar, any of that stuff, it's pretty obvious to me just looking at the position that after knight to a4, your knight is really, really weak on the rim here, and white probably should have some way to win this. Even without calculating, I would never play this move knight to a4. I would go knight d3 and hope for the best. But Liam goes knight a4, and now Levy plays queen to a5, the absolute best move here. Knight has no squares. b6, c5, and b6, c5, and c3 are all covered by the white queen here, which will capture it. So now we get knight b2, and here Levy finds move bishop c7 after a 6-minute thing. Now Levy's time usage has been exquisite throughout this game. He's trusted his instincts a lot. At the critical moments he has used time, and here, because he has 18 minutes and he uses 5 of them, he finds the winning move, which is bishop c7. Now it's very important to note that this is the only winning move, which is why it's so critical that Levy has so much time here, because if he doesn't find bishop c7, he will not win the game. But Levy does find bishop c7, and now we get the move rook to c8 being played by Liam Putnam here. Liam probably should have played this move rook to d3 at this point. I think he was already somewhat checked out of the game and resigned to the fact that he would lose, pun unintended. But after rook to d3, the show goes on here. Levy probably would have played the move bishop to e4, and after rook d4, queen b6, white attacks both the rooks, and after takes, white should go on to win the game, but the game won't end instantly. Instead, we get the move rook c8, which now allows Levy to show off some fancy tactics. He plays the move bishop d6, attacking the queen and the rook at the same time. And now Liam goes queen to d8. We get rook takes c8. Important move, of course, because Levy sacks the queen, but black cannot capture the queen because after rook takes f8, the black king is simply checkmated. So Liam takes the rook, and now Levy again finds the best move, which is queen to b6 here. And even here, I was a little bit worried that Levy might let it slip and think, well, just take the horse. Because after queen takes bishop, queen to b6, you attack the rook and the knight, and black will lose some material. But if you do go bishop takes f8 here, black has the in-between move knight c4, queen guards the knight, knight hits the queen, and suddenly it's actually quite tricky. Now it's still winning because of this nice move rook c1, rook c7, queen c3 takes, and bishop to e2, winning the horse due to the pin, but it's not obvious whatsoever. And I was very worried this might happen because if white were to play a move like queen b4, guarding the bishop and attacking the knight, now black can move the knight, and suddenly both of the bishops are under attack, and white is not better anymore. But Levy plays queen b6 instead. Great choice here, because even though black can retreat with the knight to c4, you are going to win this rook, and you're going to be ahead by an exchange with a rook for a horse, and you should be able to convert this with good technique. Now here Liam plays move queen d7, which is another inexplicable move that just loses on the spot. After knight c4 takes knight d6, and let's just say rook d1 for example, black can probably fight on with knight f7, but after bishop to e2, white will win this pawn on a6, queen guards the bishop and the pawn, bishop guards the rook, and with his outside pawn, Levy will start pushing his p up the queen side and go on to win. So Liam Putnam plays queen d7, and now Levy plays move queen b8 here. Queen guards the bishop, attacks the rook, and attacks the knight at the same time, and here Liam Putnam resigns the game, and Levy gets an epic first win in the event. Now the reason Liam Putnam resigned here is that if he were to go queen f7 for example, white has 20 ways to win. You can simply take the horse, you can also take this horse. Additionally, if even a move like rook c1 with rook c8 is also winning, but regardless, there's so many paths to victory, and if black plays knight c4, queen takes f8 is checkmate, and if you go h6 here, white can simply take the horse and then play something like bishop c5, drop the bishop back to e3, and with two bishops versus a knight, for a player at Levy's level, there is zero chance of him messing up. So after queen b8, Levy gets this big win. He's now on the scoreboard, his first win of the tournament. He has 1.5 points out of 7. Hopefully this will give him some confidence heading into the final day tomorrow when he plays rounds 8 and 9. In round 8, I believe he will have another very tough game with the black piece against Robert Shletenko, who's a very talented junior player, I believe originally from California, someone that I actually played at Coffee Chess when I did some of my IRL stuff. I believe that he got a draw against me, so he's a very strong player as well. Now if Levy is able to get through that game in the final round, he will get the easiest pairing. He plays against a player who's rated 2055. Don't ask me why someone below master level is playing in a grandmaster norm event, but that's how it is. So Levy is almost guaranteed to get a win in the final game, so round 8 will be very critical in terms of Levy being able to call this a bit of a setback, but not the end of the world versus it being a throwaway tournament. At any rate, he gets the win. That's all that anybody cares about right now. Very good game for Levy. He got a position that was in his style, very similar to a lot of the Englishes that he's played, and if he can get these sorts of positions, good things will happen down the road. So on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap from the 7th round of the Marshall Chess Club Labor Day Invitational Tournament being held in New York City. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below. Now tomorrow I am traveling to Paris, France for the Speed Chess Championship, so I probably won't be able to do a recap, but early on Tuesday morning or late Monday morning US time, I'll try to get a recap in of Levy's final 2 games, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this recap and hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Have a good one. Bye.